Peace. Welcome to the culture right here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, happy Friday. We got a lot to talk about. First, let's talk about Twitter suspending the accounts of many major journalists. We'll talk about why Elon Musk has decided to cut the cord with the press. We'll have that conversation. Also, let's talk about the preparation for the January 6th hearing committee and the report that's expected to come out from them next week. We'll be checking in with online culture crew member Corinna Denise to get her analysis about it. And did you hear? Harvard has officially appointed its first black president, and it's a woman. We're going to share with you what this means, the significance of it, and how this may change the landscape of the Ivy Leagues. And then later on, we check in with actor Julian Bertano and his wife, Kari Bertano, to talk about their entrance into the hospitality business. Plus, I got trends posting going to Mo, so stay with us. We got a lot to cover on today's edition of The Cult right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to the culture. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. Let's jump right into it. First and foremost, there was a major announcement that came about yesterday from about Twitter, the social media platform, where they have decided to move forward on suspending the accounts of many journalists as a way to cut down the conversation about what's going on with Twitter. We're talking about what's going on even with the business practices of Elon Musk. And it's got many people asking the question, Elon, is this the free speech that you talked about? Yeah, this is exactly what he talked about. Let me break it down to you. Then we're going to bring in our tech analyst, Shireen Mitchell, to give us some insight into the situation. But here's the report, folks. Take a look at this. According to the reports, Twitter on Thursday, they suddenly suspended several high-profile journalists who covered the platform and Elon Musk. Hours after the suspensions took hold, Musk faced off with one of the journalists he suspended in a Twitter Space audio discussion before an audience of more than 30,000 listeners. The suspended journalists, along with several others, found a backdoor way onto the platform through the website's audio function. He said, quote, "You docs, you get suspended. End of story. That's it," explaining his latest policy to the group before he left minutes after having joined the discussion. Now, Musk was referring to Twitter's latest rule change about accounts that track private jets, including one owned by Musk himself, which was put in place Wednesday. Now, the discussion revolved around the suspension of numerous journalists, the accounts of Ryan Mack of the New York Times, Donnie O'Sullivan of CNN, Drew Harwell of the Washington Post, Matt Binder of Mashable, Micah Lee of The Intercept, Steve Herman of Voice of America, and independent journalists Aaron Rupar, Keith Olbermann, and Tony Webster had all been suspended as of Thursday evening. Let's go to and take a look at this, folks. Twitter suspends these journalists. They've been covering and been very critical about Elon Musk and the direction that he's taken the social media platform. Let's go to our tech analyst. You know her on that Digital Sister. We always are happy to have the opportunity to chat with her. Our sister Shireen Mitchell. Shireen, how you feeling this afternoon?
I'm feeling good this afternoon, but I know we have a lot to talk about in terms of what Elon thinks with free speech is, because I swear people don't understand the difference between your ability to operate on platforms and what actual free speech means. So let's go.
Let's go. So let's break this thing down, because to the outside world, Shireen, when you're talking about free speech, and he is, you know, we talked about this before, he has claimed the title of being a free speech abolutist. I think that's how you pronounce it. There you go. But he's been this advocate of free speech. But then when a speech gets a little bit critical of him and his business practices, you gotta I'm not talking about that speech. I'm talking about other speech. How does Elon Musk justify this? Because this seems like he went back to not the chief of Twit, but the chief of Petty.
So yes, first of all, he went into spaces. If you think about that, the journalists were having their own conversation without him, and he decided to go into spaces in the first place. So that's the first thing that people need to realize what happened there. But the other piece is that, yeah, like these are people who had critical analysis of him. And by the way, that's what the freedom of the press is about. It's the right to criticize your government. It's the right to tell, media journalistic stories. And what he's basically saying that those people who are journalists are not given the same rights as what is afforded them in the First Amendment. He's bastardized the First Amendment and free speech to such a way that people don't realize what it actually means. And when he used this and justified it by the doxing framework, and so like this private jet conversation that people keep using, he's basically saying that they were avoiding the ban. They were actually violating data privacy conversations when actually jet information is actually public information. Everyone can get access to that. So it's just any other journalistic tool that reporting comes from. So the fact that he said that he was being doxxed was very fascinating, because it's like, do you know how many people on this platform has been doxxed? There are so many people who have had asked for content to be pulled down. That's their address, their phone number. We have tracked many instances that this has happened to regular users, particularly women of color who get targeted. And most of the time, nothing happens. Those accounts don't get suspended, and they show, even the tweets themselves are not removed. So when I hear this, it's the irony of it. For him to say, well, y'all not like any, I think the words he said is that y'all are just like anyone else. If you dox people, then you get removed like everyone else. Well, all the other accounts that doxed are not removed. So even that statement alone, by itself is a lie, because they're not diligently doing that for everyone. He is basically unilaterally making these decisions. And be clear, when he was asked those questions, one of the things he did is, as he exited the Twitter spaces stopped working.
Wow.
So those journalists were no longer able to continue their conversation in Twitter spaces, because he actually dismantled it. And by the way, they weren't the only ones affected. It was like a system-wide change, right? So that tells you he doesn't honestly believe in freedom of speech, because why would you impact someone else, other groups of people, just because you don't like the conversation that's being had about you?
Yeah, so how does that come across to the general public? Because right now, depending on which side of the aisle you sit on, some people might applaud it and some people might, condemn it. But in the larger picture, as we're in this space of trying to get a better understanding of what free speech means, what it means to have these social media platforms, like whether they should be regulated by the government or whether they should stay as private companies, how does this fit in that part of the conversation?
So I think there's a distinction I think people need to understand clearly, right? Your freedom of speech, which is what the First Amendment actually protects you for, is your right to grievance, your right to protest, your right to say anything about the government and not be punished by the government. What Elon is doing is a level of bastardization of that. He's basically saying that, anyone can say anything they want, including hate speech, including things that are violent, including incitement to violence on his platform, and he's not going to do anything about it. However, in this one or two cases of doxing, particularly important people or people he care about, then he'll change the rules, and at that point suspend accounts. When it aligns itself with regulation, what this means is that now, regulators have to pay attention to the disparate aspects of those rules being changed, because their own terms of service is supposed to protect all users. So if you're basically picking and choosing which users you're going to protect, well, now we're having a different conversation, and whether or not regulators need to come in and discuss that and maybe look at ways in which this, because he's operating in this platform as if he is the end all be all to every decision on this platform. And that changes a lot of things.
It changes a lot of things, absolutely. And Shireen, we're going to take a quick pause, but when we come forward, I want us to talk about that level of regulation, because at one point there was a discussion about him creating a quote unquote a moderation council. Then I read another report that said that's not going to happen. So I'm wondering what's going to be the system of accountability? What are going to be the checks and balances for this? Because he's putting out information. Some stuff is like, Elon, we don't work for Twitter. Why are you talking to us in this tech jargon? Well, today we're doing this and we're doing that with the system to make sure that the server. Elon, we don't work for Twitter.
Exactly.
So I want to get your take on that, and plus we'll get some comments from our online culture crew. Folks, we're just getting started. Stay with us. We're going to continue the conversation to talk about the Twitter ban of the Twitter suspension of journalists and the impact that it has on this idea of free speech. We want to hear from you. Post your comments in our chat, and let's continue the conversation with Shireen Mitchell here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Folks, we have been talking about Twitter suspension of journalists, and this is the big story that came out yesterday as of Thursday evening. There were a number of major journalists that worked for reputable media agencies who were suspended as a result of their being critical of Elon Musk and how he's been handling the leadership of the social media platform. So we're talking about it and the implications that it has on the idea of free speech, and so much more. We're checking in with tech analyst Shireen Mitchell, and it's always a pleasure to talk to Shireen. Shireen, really quickly before we get to our comments from our online culture crew, what about this moderation council? What about these? What are the checks and balance systems right now? Because he threw out this idea initially when he first, bought the company. There was talk about having a council of staff members and users and other folks to kind of help to moderate that. Hasn't happened. We know that hate speech has gone up over like I heard some crazy number like 200, 300%.
500%.
500%. Crazy. You couldn't even, there's no grade for that. But all of this stuff, but what about the accountability factor? What system is in place? Where has Twitter put in place to serve as a checks and balance for Elon and for the platform?
So I want everyone to realize that when he first got in there, one of the first things he did in the first 2 weeks was to get rid of all the content moderation team. He got rid of the content moderation team. He got rid of the human rights team. He got rid of every team that actually catered to content moderation and protecting users on the platform. And this includes the teams that stopped violent shares of information that targeted groups that helped organize the insurrection, groups that that they were stopping that were, basically state sanctioned targeted accounts and executions and massacres. Like there were big things that these teams were actually working on. And in the first 2 weeks, he got rid of those. He was basically saying he's going to come up with his own model of that. And that has not happened. They used to have a trust and safety council. And if I'm not mistaken, Monday, he got rid of the trust and safety council, which was a group of organizations that would share information about concerns that Twitter should be paying attention to. So what has become painfully clear to me and others is that he has no interest in human rights violations. He has no interest in protecting people and the users on this account. He is personally making distinctions about who should be protected on the platform and who should not. And that's an individual decision based on him and his perspective and his ideology, which is extremely dangerous on so many levels. To have one person thinking that they can justify a global interaction of harm and that he alone, think about that. Anyone who says that they alone can fix it or they alone can determine what's harmful and what's not is also problematic. One of the things he's been doing is trying to do these polls to justify his actions, to make it look like it's not just him and that the community is also agreeing and engaging with him. That's, I think, in his head, some ways of moderating. Because I think today, if I'm not mistaken, he actually tried to do a poll to say if anyone did some doxing, should they be reinstated or not? And the poll didn't work out the way he wanted to. So he did a separate poll. So like that just tells you that like if he doesn't get the response he wants, he's already decided on what he wants to do. He's pretending like the community has some insights or has some input and they don't.
Right. And very quickly, because I want to get to these comments, but what I'm thinking about, Shireen, is this idea, if he doesn't like how journalists are being critical of him, his use of private jets and all this stuff, what about for Black journalists, for Black media in particular, when you start thinking about the things that we could put out there as we talk about the issues of race, as we talk about social justice and all of those things, I'm thinking that might actually be qualified as something he would say is doxing and go as far as say, well, we don't need that level of consciousness. We don't need that type of talk. Is that a concern that you have as well?
Absolutely. If anyone missed his tweet after he got booed, he literally tweeted, "This woke mind virus needs to be defeated."
I saw that.
If you think about what Black journalists are always trying to do, they're trying to amplify the stories that affect communities of color, Black communities, like what we're talking about now, and the impacts. And the challenge that I have is that most of those communities, groups like me and others, have been talking about the harms being inflicted on the platform, had talked about the doxing, has been talking about the harassment. But he is actually putting people back on who not only participate in the insurrection to overthrow the government, right? I think people need to understand that, but also people who were doxing and harming and threatening other users because they had a quote unquote difference of opinion, is what he keeps saying it is. But when you actually are someone who doesn't believe that anyone else have the right to exist in this country, that's not a difference of opinion.
Yeah, that's gone way further along than just a difference of opinion. Absolutely.
That's not a debate.
No, I would agree with you. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Let's check in with our crew. Shalinda, you checked in and on the chat, kicking us off this afternoon. You said you think evil Elon, #EvilElon, would be busy with his companies, but no. Well, this is one of his companies. So he's been busy with taking it down.
you have to think, and I love the way that she said evil Elon. I call him apartheid Clyde. So
apartheid Clyde. Damn.
He came from an apartheid state in South Africa, right? So he comes here claiming to be African American when he's an Afrikaan. And we know Afrikaans are very different in their perspective of the world. So he comes to the Western America framework and he behaves in a way that like he's running a business, but he's running a business in basically as if he's running a business in the apartheid state and in the authoritarian state. And that's part of the problem. If you think about much of what he's doing with this platform, it's a very much authoritarian state about the business in itself. There were instances when he got into position where even his lawyers were saying that, like, as if he didn't have to respond to the FTC in their dissent decrees, as if there is no legal recourse that will affect him just because he took the business private. That says a lot about the way that he sees what he's doing on this platform. It also says a lot about what he thinks he can do to the users on this platform. And if we haven't seen the stuff that he's already done to the workers, many of the workers that's still at Twitter that couldn't leave are people who are here on H-1B visas. And so you have to think about the level of authoritarian and absolute decision-making he believes he has, which I find really ironic because I don't think he had that same level of decision-making at Tesla, but he definitely has it now because he bought everything out and then got rid of the board, got rid of all the teams. So he's operating this company as if he's a sole proprietor.
Wow. Let's go to Remixtress. You said when the village idiot buys the village. Damn, there it is. Damn. Thank you so much, Remixtress. Deidre, you checked in and said Elon Musk is a dictator on Twitter.
Yes.
Yeah.
He definitely operates that way, which is why he's fine with bringing on, I'm sorry, y'all, but Agent Orange 45. Like, why is that okay? It's okay because he believes that those type of behaviors are acceptable behaviors. And if you see what he's doing, it's a very much a mimic of that same kind of behavior. Anyone that criticized, Trump was, accosted. They were targeted. They were threatened. His behavior with these journalists are exactly the same way. He's threatening them. He's basically saying, I can remove you from my platform. Now, by the way, they still can speak and they can still, do their job. He's not keeping them from doing their job in its full context. But what he is doing is saying, if you don't say anything nice to me on my platform, in my business, you are not allowed here. So that means this is someone who's been operating with no one checking them about their behavior, no one saying no to them, no one criticizing them. And that's dictatorship and authoritarianism.
Absolutely. So we got about 30 seconds left, Shireen. What do we take from this? Like, how do we, as users? Because I saw one, and I think I saw a young man by the name of Victor Shi. He works he's a Biden delegate. He's like in his 20s, and he's like, you know what? I'm not going to let you push me off of this platform. You're a bully. We're going to stay on. He's encouraging other young people to stay on. Should we stay on? What do we do with all of this at this point?
I do think that there needs to be some level of pushback. Like, if we just all step away, then aren't we sort of kind of giving the space away to white supremacists? Because that's who he's bringing back on. That's who he's catering to. That's who he's allowing to say whatever they want. Our ability to say whatever we want is questionable, right? And now there's a process now in place that can push us off. If we get kicked off, it's nothing different than any other time that we've been kicked off. So my opinion is we should hold the ground. We should make sure that people see exactly how the rules are extremely different for us than others. People with money, people who believe in white supremacy, people who believe that other people don't have the right to exist or the same right of equality in this country. We need to make sure that those parts of the conversation are still being said, whether journalists are present to say it or not. Because even in some of these instances, I'm not sure they were telling that story the way they should have in the first place when they were all doing these beat sweeteners about him and Tesla. And now they're realizing how problematic he is and how much he would target them if you don't tell the story he likes.
Absolutely. Shireen Mitchell, you can find her online at Digital Sister. She's a tech analyst, and she's doing a fantastic job trying to keep on the online space truly free, even if it's beyond Elon. But Shireen, we truly appreciate you. Always happy to have you on, and we'd love to bring you back on as we continue to look out at how this platform develops. But folks, make sure you check her out. Definitely check her out. All right, Shireen, thank you so much for being so good for the culture.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take another pause. When we come forward, let's move forward on talking about the January 6th committee. There's some more conversation about the hearing, the report, and we're going to be checking in with Online Culture crew Corinna Denise to give her thoughts about what she's seeing with this committee and hear from you as well. So stay with it. That conversation is up next here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. Woo!
hatred on the streets. A horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, as we move from the digital space into the world of politics, we want to talk a little bit about the January 6th committee. But before we do that, we actually have a poll going on right now. If you're on our YouTube, as we're streaming live on YouTube, you can check out the poll. We're asking the question, should we stay on Twitter? Now that we see this happening, this is going to be like a big recurring question, as Elon Musk will probably continue to do some wild stuff with the social media platform. But we're just asking, should we stay on Twitter? You can answer the question with either yes or no, and we'll make sure that we get the results of that. But I'm just interested, our team here at The Culture, we're interested, should we stay on that social media platform? I know there are other platforms, but this platform still has some weight, some significance, and folks are literally fighting to stay on this platform to make sure it gets back to a place where it can truly be heard, where people aren't offended and people aren't feeling like they're being bullied. But should we stay on Twitter? Join us in that poll, and we'll certainly follow up with those results in a little bit. All right, folks, let's talk about the January 6th committee. Now, of course, the January 6th committee has already had 9 hearings all throughout the year about what happened on January the 6th. Now where folks are expecting for a big report to come out. There's even some pushback saying that Liz Cheney, who serves as one of the she serves as one of the the leaders of the committee. She has some folks have even criticized her for putting so much emphasis on President Trump in the executive summary of the report. But the report is planning to come out to talk about what we have been seeing and the data and the information and the evidence that has been gathered thus far. And here to talk to us about this and give her perspective is Online Culture crew member, Corinna Denise, who is a vocal member of our Online Culture crew. And we're so happy that she's able to join us to give her insight about what we've been seeing for these past few months with this committee. Corinna, thank you so much. How are you feeling this afternoon?
Hi, Faraji. Good to be with you. Peace, Culture crew. Peace.
You one of the original Culture crew members. You didn't jump on last week. You started when we started back in February. So this is really cool. But first and foremost, I mean, you bring a lot to the table. And we're going to have another conversation after this one about the education piece because you work in that space as well. But you brought this up. You said, Faraji, we really need to look at this January 6th committee because they're doing some important work. And I've been hearing actually from a lot of experts that said that their the way they presented the information, the use of videos, the testimonies, the data, the evidence has been phenomenal. That, generally when you have congressional type committees, it's very boring, but this wasn't the case for the January 6th committee. So what grade would you give the committee thus far, given all of the hearings and everything that's been presented?
Oh, wow. Give them a grade? Let's see. Maybe a solid B+.
Okay.
It was better than I expected. I was actually really surprised earlier on when the hearings first started coming on, how well put together they were. But I thought it was really important to discuss this today because they're about to wrap up on Monday with their final hearing. And it's important that we don't forget. And what do I mean by that? Of course, this is forever etched in our history in this country, what happened January 6, 2021. But moving forward in January, when the 118th Congress is sworn in, GOP, they take over. And even though the mainstream media, there's been a big emphasis, in my view, of them constantly saying, oh, the GOP, they have a very narrow majority. Nevertheless, it's still a majority, and things are going to shift in the dynamics of the House in that particular chamber. So it's important that we don't forget, meaning in present day, as we move forward into the 2024 election, we have to remain vigilant and remember that this happened. Because I anticipate that the GOP, they're going to have their own hearings, where they're going to be investigating perhaps maybe January 6th committee members and other congressional members of Congress, and try and present a case as to how this was a fraud, this should have never happened, blase, blase, and we can't allow that to happen. I know yesterday we were discussing even Tim Scott, running for president. We have to remember, this was the same guy on the side of the opposition. He voted with them. He doesn't think that Joe Biden is the duly elected president of the United States. So we have to remember those things. And it's easy sometimes where we lose that momentum of memory and we kind of just move on for whatever reason, right? Sometimes we forget whether it's intentional or unintentionally, and we can't forget. We have to remember what happened. And I suspect this is going to be just a nice, record for history documented. The actual report is set to come out on Wednesday.
Yeah,
I believe it's like maybe 8 chapters or so. But I think it's very important that we remind especially Black folks, we have to remember, why did this even happen? Because we decided a long time ago that we weren't going to tolerate being considered 3/5 of a human being in the country that we built, number one, and we decided to exercise our right to vote. And because we turned out in record numbers in 2020, January 6, 2021 happened, and the whole hillbilly horde came out and showed out. And so we have to remember, this is what happened, because they're going to try to erase, and we're going to hear some things. We haven't even really heard any talk of critical race theory lately, right? Remember that? That kind of like died down, and I anticipate that this will die down too. And especially with them having that majority, again, narrow or not, we have to remember, especially moving forward into 2024, we cannot forget, especially with these candidates, how are they even allowed to be on the ballot, Faraji? Like it's insane. And we have to be vigilant moving forward as we're building coalitions and trying to consider who we're going to elect as our next president. I know there's a lot of debate with that going on. And that's a whole nother conversation. But I think it's so important that we don't lose sight of what happened on January 6th, because it definitely can happen again. And we're still pretty much in danger.
Absolutely. And like I said, mentioned, their final panel meeting will be Monday. Full report, as you can see, folks, comes out on December the 21st. What a nice Christmas gift. What a great Christmas gift. Hey, guys, here's a report to show that democracy has been undermined. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
But here's the concern that I have, and I'm going to invite our online culture crew to share their thoughts about this as well, Corinna. My concern is, will it make a difference? And that's, I think, is one of the overarching questions about the efforts of the committee. Will it really make a difference? And we could say that it made a difference somewhat in the congressional election. Maybe we didn't talk about it, but the fact that you had 9 of these hearings leading up to the election, it was a constant reminder, hey, Donald Trump and his followers with trying to destroy, storm the Capitol, undermine democracy. So that may have, stopped the red wave. But I'm just thinking in the long haul, will it make a difference? Do you think it's going to make a difference? Do you think America, and I'm not talking about to the legislators, I'm talking about to us as the constituents. Do you think it's really going to make a difference? Is it going to be a game changer?
Wow. Will it make a difference? That's a very, very broad question.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I hope people are inquisitive enough to kind of like delve into this and do their own research and just think like, oh my gosh, an assault on the Capitol. Like, I remember what I was doing that day. I was in my Brooklyn apartment in New York City. I was going to go walking in Prospect Park, and I'm sitting down about to tie my laces. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, I see all this chaos on TV. So I'll never forget that. And we can't lose sight of, what that actually means for our elections. As you know, Faraji, I've said in the chat often, if the GOP took over both chambers, the Senate and the House, I anticipated there would be no more elections in this country. I think we bought ourselves some time with the slim majority in the House and like barely holding on to the Senate. I mean, some things are, more or less kind of the same, not so much the same, if you know what I mean there. So I think we have some time within this 2-year period to kind of really educate our people, build up coalitions and whatnot. And I'm going to just borrow a line from Dr. Carr. It's time to be smart. Like, I understand that Democrats, we all know their messaging sucks. We've had those discussions. But at the same time, again, I keep saying the word vigilant. We have to be vigilant and smart enough to know how to play this chess game, because at the end of the day, it's for our survival. So I hope it has made some difference. And if nothing else stood out to you, and I'm talking specifically to us, Black people who I love, remember Lady Ruby and her daughter. That was jarring in the hearing. Like, I remember reminding my mom just day before yesterday when she's passing me a ginger mint in the car, and that came up. And it's just to tell you how much danger, they were in, and they didn't even have any protective custody or anything like that. And it's just a matter of time. Like, this could happen again. Like, if they're going to go and storm the Capitol, can this not happen coming into our neighborhoods and things of that nature?
Yeah.
So even though they're going to work tirelessly, I think, to kind of erase this or, lessen the effects of what it was and try to make it something that it really was, that it really wasn't. We have to remind folks like this could happen again. We have to put systems in place and people in place to make sure it doesn't happen again, because I think they really bank on us forgetting. And sometimes we get caught up in life. And, we don't always remember what's happening, but I think they bank on us forgetting, Faraji. And that's what I mean by it's so important for us to remember presently, because even though this will be etched in history, and who knows, hopefully it'll be in the history books. We got.
Well, I hope so too. I do. I really do hope so. Look, I got to take a quick pause, Corinna. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. We're going to hear from more of your fellow online culture crew members to get their take on this as we look at the January 6th hearing. The next panel hearing is going to be on Monday. A report is coming out toward the end of the month. Folks, what are your thoughts? Post your comments in the chat and stay with us. You're tuned into The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig?
All right, folks, we have been talking about the January 6th committee hearing that's scheduled for this Monday and their upcoming report that's scheduled to come out before the end of the month. And we've been having the talk about the implications and the significance of this hearing with one of our online culture crew members, Corinna Denise, to give us her insight and her thoughts about what we can expect from the hearing. And more importantly, will the hearing's efforts make a difference? Let's bring Corinna back into the conversation and also get some comments from other online culture crew members as we have this discussion about, do you think this is making a difference? Will folks, I'm just asking, will you tune into the final hearing for the January 6th hearing scheduled for Monday? All right, let's go online. Let's hear from Pauline. Pauline checking in, another strong culture crew member. She said, no one is really being held accountable, so it will happen again. Damn. That's a hard pill to swallow, Corinna. That is, Pauline, why did you have to mess up my Friday?
Well, I think Pauline is right. You know, no one really is being held accountable. Do you remember seeing how many times on the screen during one of those primetime hearings, you kept seeing 36 months, 36 months, 36 months? Like, get the hell out of here, 36 months. And then just today, I think his name is Doug Jensen. He was sentenced to 5 years. The guy who was chasing Officer Eugene Goodman in the Capitol building. Yeah. And apparently it was a little bit less than what the prosecutors wanted. But these sentences are very mediocre, Faraji. Like, we do more time for this.
And look, we do more time looking at the police officer wrong.
Right. And I
I'll be laughing, but I'm saying, like, we do more time for pettiness. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, it's absolutely. Now, here's the other part. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because not only will the hearing put together like a final report, including an executive summary, but they also will be looking at which persons or these various cases, because there are actually hundreds of cases against various members of that mob that stormed the Capitol. Which cases need to go further along and be sent directly to the Department of Justice to bring about some level of accountability there. But I don't know if Merrick Garland is going to move the way he wants to, is going to move, as T.I. said, expeditiously to get this done. I mean, because here's the other part, and I think you understand this too. This is the other dynamic. And I think that now that Biden is at this point, he got some big wins under his belt for the party. The Democrats were able to stop the red wave from happening. Bring the hammer, because Donald Trump is weak right now. We talked about it yesterday. Mm-hmm. The GOP really don't want to see him being their nominee for president. He's weak right now. He's taking hit after hit after hit. Bring the hammer, Mr. President.
Yes.
Don't let up. You don't give him no chance.
No chance.
No chance. You got to bring the hammer now, because right now, he's on the ropes. His support is flailing. People are trying to figure out, if he actually can be a part of the GOP, and Trumpism, as much as people are, the ideology of Trumpism is still growing, but at the same time, the ideology only grows as far as the people. And so if you don't have people, strong voices for the ideology, you have an opportunity here. Do you think that that's a good strategy the president and his administration need to use at this point?
I mean, it's one strategy of many, right, that we wish that they were already using. I remember like the last couple of months before we got into like the most recent elections, Joe Biden was finally on stage actually name calling and calling Rafael, aka Ted Cruz, who I guess hates himself and doesn't want to use his real name, and Marjorie Taylor Greene and whatnot. And it's just like, where was this president? Imagine if he was like that on day one of his administration. But no, he wanted to kumbaya and kiki with his Republican friends who are your open enemies. What makes you think they will work with you when they didn't even want to certify your election? They don't respect you. You can't negotiate with the opposition. And when they're in power, there is no negotiation. There is no deal. They're in power and they wield it accordingly. So this would be a great opportunity for him to do that. But how do we get him to do that? We're going to have to really push and push and push and push and push, because we only have so much time, and we have to capitalize on this 2-year period where we did buy ourselves some time. Like, things could have been a lot worse for Raji. Like, I was really scared. And, you know, I'm in Florida already with DeSatan. That's bad enough. And, you know, that's bad enough. And so I really hope that they will leverage this opportunity to really build the coalition. But then at the same time, again, we have to be smart and figure out a way to build up ourselves to wield our power accordingly and continue to force his hand. Like, even though with, like, for example, the student loan debt right now, they're fighting that in court. Like, I don't think Joe Biden wanted to do that. You know, his hand was forced. There was pressure. There was pushing. You know, so, you know, they have done a lot of great things, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't know about it. And I think us who are politically astute, we have to be responsible to educate our people and inform them to connect the dots. But it definitely is an opportunity. I hope Joe Biden still, you know, considers doing that. And we have to stay on top of him, because just last year around this time, if you recall, when Senator Manchin went on TV early Sunday morning and embarrassed the hell out of the president, I thought, in my view, in his rebuttal, he had his press secretary, Jen Psaki, basically put out a statement like, what the hell is that? You're the president of the United States, and one of your senators is not in line. And he basically came out against you on national TV. You should have checked him, you know, however that looked like. And I thought that was really weak of him. So we have to continue
I need politicians to get petty now, Corinna.
Yeah.
I need people to start getting petty. Like, and you know, we saw a little bit of it from the Obama administration. And, you know, of course, January 6th did not happen during that time. But if it would, I just need y'all to get a little bit more pettier.
Yes.
Because the Republicans, they can get petty. We expect it. The Democrats, when they get petty, everybody says, well, oh my God. Oh my God.
And it's always in the nice color at the last minute.
Come on, man. Get petty. If you have the power, use the power. All right, let me get some comments from folks. Karen, you checked in. You said the committee did an excellent job. The results are of great value to wise voters who understand how democracy works. Many detest the damage Trump has done to the USA and the world with his nonsense. And I think that's why. I mean, the Joker put out, he had a major announcement. I'm sure you saw this, Corinna. He had a major announcement. And folks, I'm not like you can't make this stuff up. The man put out there, major announcement coming soon. Y'all need to hold your And guess what? It was for some damn trading cards.
Some damn trading cards for
$99 each.
And the news, the mainstream, they were running away with that last night. They loved it. It's like, it's like they just hang on every little thing to wait to see what he does. Now, I understand there's certain things that are happening, you know, legally. We do need to be informed of that. But I'm like, I don't give a damn about trading cards.
I mean, the man put himself like he part of the Magnificent Seven. You know what I'm saying? Like Trump, what are you doing, bro? And you're supposed to be running for president of the United States, and he's all looking. I mean, and this is the crazy part. He got it. He could have did that whole speech or his whole announcement from a beach somewhere. He's in a very prestigious location, got his suit and tie on. And guys, I want to let you know these trading cards for $99. It's like you raising money for your legal defense fund, bro. Like, what are you doing?
I guess the Hillbilly Horde isn't funding his GoFundMe anymore.
Like, you a joke. You are a joke. McCole, you checked in and you said, we, especially Black people, have to stay engaged and fight politically, socially, economically, medically, because these systems crashing and burning will hurt Black people the most. And that's, and McCole, that's the part about it, right? Like, and I think, Corinna, you made this point at the beginning of your remarks. You said that we probably seen the last official election that this country had. And I know that deep down in our hearts, and I'm saying for Black people, for white people, for people all over this country, we all probably feel like this election situation as it currently is not working, right? This situation as it currently is, that I foresee, as you're saying, McCole is saying, a dramatic change within the next 5 to 10 years. A dramatic change on how we do this. And what this committee has shown us is the fragility of a situation that when you allow certain voices into the space, the political conversation, that they can create this uproar. Like we've never seen something like this. And I think that if people just breeze past what the January 6th committee has done and has been working on, this country has had so many red flags that we're kind of moving toward the very destructive path. We need to figure this thing out.
Oh, it'll be done. Like, do you remember summer, I believe 2020, when Trump had to do his little photo op in Lafayette Park?
And he walked across the street.
He walked across the street and bombed some of the protesters.
Yeah.
I just remember thinking to myself at that moment, like, oh my God, like we're at war. You know, like in the psychological sense, literal sense. You know, it doesn't always imply physical combat, but we're at war. And he wanted the military to unleash martial law on the citizens. You know, it's so important that we understand what that means. If the military had bent to the will of Trump, we would already be under dictatorship, Faraji. No question. Like once we lose the military, like what else do we have? And I think we also have to be reminded that even let's say if some miracle Trump is out of the picture, the signifier that is white supremacy is still very much present.
Fact.
And that's not going away. These senators, they're drunken with power. You know, they didn't necessarily want Trump to be the face because he's so blatantly racist. They're kind of more like, you know, tone it down. We're not so open with our racism. You know, and I think that's more or less what they really don't like or care for about him. But now that they see that they actually have the power in their grasp, it's like they're so drunken with power, they're going to do anything to hold on to it. And that's why you'll see a Marco Rubio kiss his ass or Raphael, even though he called his wife ugly, because it's just like the exchange is kind of like one hand washes the other. Yeah, you said my wife is ugly, but I got the power. You know, so they're willing to do anything. And we have to be vigilant as Black folks, especially, to know that these things are going to affect us the most. Absolutely. Just like Culture Crew members said, you know, and it's very important that we don't let up, and we can't fall into this personality game about who we like or don't like, because it's about voting our interests. And until we can actually vote our numbers and maximize our power, which I don't think we've ever really done, you know, as a voting bloc, really actually vote our numbers, something that Roland talks about all the time, then how can we even move on to the conversation of saying we want another party? It's not impossible, but we got to get the voting bloc together. We're not even coming out in our numbers to vote.
That's so. And Corinna, I got to take a quick pause, but you are absolutely right, and I think that is going to be the next challenge, folks. Again, January 6th committee hearing will be on Monday. Their report is going to be at the end of this month. And we will just have to see. And then, Corinna, I just might have to just bring you back on as we after this last committee hearing to get your take on it. But look, we're not going to let you go just yet. Folks, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about how Harvard has officially appointed its first Black president of the school, and it's a Black woman. Wow. Let's have that conversation with Corinna and you. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black
own media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in to the second hour of the show. If you missed the first hour, make sure y'all check us out. Great conversations about everything from the Twitter suspension of journalists to what's going on with the January 6th committee. Make sure y'all check out the replay when you get a chance. Now, let's shift gears. Let's have another important conversation, a conversation that is shaking up the world of academia, shaking up the world of Ivy Leagues, where Harvard has officially announced, folks. Let me just share this with you. If I had a drum roll, I would do it right now. But Harvard has officially appointed its first black president of the institution. Oh my goodness. You talking about history being made in 2022. Take a look at this, folks. I mean, this is big. This is really, really big. I'm going to share with you. Take a look. Here is now the president of Harvard University. It's a sister by the name of Claudine Gay. And Claudine Gay has been with the institution for a while. Now, here's what this is how Harvard has put it out there in the report here. Harvard University, an institution whose history dates back to 1636, has tapped Claudine Gay as its next president, according to the Boston Globe. Gay, who is currently dean of Harvard's Faculty of Arts and Sciences, will take over from Larry Bacow in 2023. And in a prepared video announcing her appointment, Gay spoke of her love for the institution. She said, "People are Harvard's institutional strength. I want to take on this role because I believe in them, and I want a Harvard that matches their ambition and promise." Now, Gay is 52 years old. Her parents are Haitian immigrants. Also referenced Harvard's obligation to society at large in the prepared video. The comments are timely, given ongoing conversations about wealthy institutions' tax-exempt status. She said the idea of the ivory tower, that's the past, not the future of academia. She said, we don't exist alongside society, but as a part of it. And at Harvard, we have that duty to lean in and engage and to be of service to the world. I needed to talk about this, and I had to keep my sister Corinna to be a part of this conversation because Corinna is actually an advisor in the college space. So, wanted to get her take. And certainly, folks, I want to hear what you got to say. But Corinna, I did not want this story to go unnoticed, right? Like there's a thousand things that we can talk about. But the fact that Harvard has announced that a black woman will now lead the institution, its first black president since its founding of 1636, this is major. Now, also, let's talk about the fact that I remember having Dr. Carr on the show when Harvard did months ago. They had put out there that they were their involvement in the transatlantic slave trade. they have put $100 million behind their effort to set up a fund where they could pretty much try to reconcile the difference and try to redeem themselves from the history of racism, systemic and institutional racism that they have practiced over the years to keep Black students out from their classrooms. And so Dr. Carr was not impressed, to say the least. And let's bring Corinna. I want to bring her into the frame here. He was not impressed. He know it. Because check this out, as much as they spent $100 million, folks, let me tell you, Harvard has the largest endowment in the world in terms of the money that they have in their coffers, $51 billion. I did not know that a school can have that much money. That joint sounds like a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
$51 billion in its endowment. And so they are trying to 51.9 billion. Let me make sure I get that right. So it's damn near $52 billion for their endowment. So this is huge, right? And I'm surprised. I'm really surprised. A school that has turned out 8 presidents, including George H.W. Bush, Barack Obama, and others. How come we're not hearing about this? Why? I mean, I would think this is major. Like, is it as big as Ketanji Brown Jackson be getting on the Supreme Court? No, but it's big to me. I think this is huge for the culture. What do you make of this?
It is big, and I was excited when you shared it with me today. I wasn't expecting that. I think this is monumental, and I think it should be very big news, right? But we got a lot of other distractions going on right now, Faraji. So thankfully, we have this platform and our Black Star Network to bring attention to the things that matter to us, right? So I think it is important to, have a moment of celebration. This is very much unexpected. I mean, at a lot of predominantly white institutions, university or college presidents tend to be white male, right. And usually most, very much up in age. So this is a refreshing change. It's going to be really interesting to see how maybe some of the dynamic or systems or things of that nature at Harvard may change, because university presidents often oversee the supervision between administration and faculty and staff and students and, programs and access for students. So it'll be really interesting to see how maybe some of those dynamics might shift or improve, especially with a lot of students of color per se at Harvard. And as a former and still pretty much a college counselor, even working with college students and even students in high school, especially when I would send my students off to Ivy Leagues and even Harvard being one of them, there could be a lot of intimidation there. I mean, you work really hard and you get accepted and you get in, but it's still like they know that it's not a space that they're too much familiar with, right?
Yeah.
And how do they start to navigate those spaces accordingly? So I'm hoping that this will be inspiring for students to see, someone who looks like them in that position of power at their university. And Black women, we rule the world. We know
y'all. We know y'all got magic and powers and all that good stuff. But here's the thing. Because Harvard did start off the effort earlier this year talking about their involvement with the transatlantic slave trade, how do we not make sure that this isn't a political or even a PR stunt for them to try to bring a Black woman onto, into this leadership role? Because I know that's going to come up in the conversation, Corinna. Mm-hmm. That folks are going to be like, oh, okay, they're only doing it because they're trying to get Black students, or only because they, now they feel guilty. This white guilt is setting in for them, and it takes away from the fact that President Gay may actually have a vision to turn the school around into a more progressive space, especially for Black students and other students that have been marginalized from its classrooms.
Yeah, that definitely came into my mind too. I'm not even going to lie about it, because the timing, considering the climate of the country, things that have happened in the past 2 years, I'm a little sick and tired of seeing all the diversity and inclusion stuff or whatnot. So I think it's just about us raising the questions, right? Taking the deep dive to kind of find out, well, what has been her success at Harvard already? She was a former dean, and to kind of see, well, what are her plans? What direction does she want to take the university in? What are things that have been working at the university? What are things that can be improved to really have, make an informed and educated opinion as to, what is this really about?
Yeah.
But I mean, I understand. Like I said, it did cross my mind too. Is this just happenstance? Because there's been a lot of ironic situations lately where it's like all of a sudden, and it's kind of like, when did you not think about this before? And it's so unfortunate that we're always pushed into that position to consider, like, are they just doing this for symbolism? But we've been there so many times, so rightfully so, we're gonna have our, our spidey senses up, right?
Right.
But I really hope that's not the case. I mean, we can only hope. But I do think that we need to really look into this and see, how does this even correlate with, what Harvard, put out a few months ago with that report and their involvement in the Atlantic slave trade, and kind of see, like, well, what's on her agenda? What are her plans for the university? It'd be interesting to hear feedback from the students, who are already there, who maybe came in as freshmen, maybe they're in like their upperclassmen now, how does the change affect them? What do they think about the change in relation to all the other things that are going on? But, it's still new. I think there's still much for us to learn. So I'm going to give a little grace.
Right. No, we got you. We got you. And you know what? And I'm glad you made that point, because sometimes when Black folks get into these high profile positions, right, we don't give grace. The expectation is so high that, and I know a lot of folks, Black people in particular, Black leaders, they say, all right, we're going to start from day one. We're going to hit the ground running. And then the expectation is by day 3, racism is eradicated. You know what I mean? And it's like, you can't, it's going to take some time. Like, and for that buy-in, like you saying, from the, hearing from the students and even us as the larger, I would say the larger community of folks, if this was a way for Black students to get in, this means that Black Americans now have the opportunity to become serious stakeholders in this major institution of higher learning. And in order for us to be stakeholders, then we have to kind of keep up on what things are happening. So I think that for President Gay, she's going to have the great challenge will be how she's going to communicate with Black America about where Harvard stands on various issues. And for example, and then we got to take a quick pause, but Marcus brought this up. He said, I can't wait to see how Sister President Gay navigate the Supreme Court affirmative action case that's pending against Harvard.
Oh, yeah.
So Marcus, you bring up a great point, bro. Like, how will that happen? How will she communicate? How will that affect the university? I mean, you got all of this race-based stuff, and then you put this Black woman in the midst of it.
Yeah.
And then you expect a Black woman, and this is, we've seen this time and time again, Corinna. You bring Black people in when shit is falling apart.
Yep. And we're supposed to pick up the pieces.
We're supposed to pick up the pieces for white power and white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I say Black America got to be put on notice, so that way we can support the sister. Because guess what? At the end of the day, Harvard is still a well-respected institution.
Yeah.
And more importantly, could you imagine if they get an influx of Black students, particularly from marginalized, disenfranchised communities, Black and brown communities of this country? I mean, the possibilities are endless, but we have to be there. We have to be informed. And I think that's the big thing. Look, we're going to continue the conversation with Corinna and hear from you. Folks, continue to post your comments in our chat as we have this discussion. What's your thought? What are your thoughts about Harvard appointing its first Black president and our sister, Claudine Gay, and hearing what you have to say? Join us in the conversation, post in our YouTube chat, Facebook, as well as Black Star Network. And stay tuned. We still got a lot more to talk about here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told. Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Folks, we have been talking about the big news coming out of Harvard University, where they have announced that they have appointed their first Black president in Dean Claudine Gay, who is going to take the leadership reins starting in 2023. She's going to be succeeding current President Bacow to take Harvard to the next level. Ms. President Gay will be the first Black woman to lead the institution, a woman of Haitian descent, a woman who has been a part of the institution for many years. And there's a picture of her right there. And she is planning to take Harvard to the next level on so many levels. We've been talking to Online Culture crew members. She serves as a college advisor as well. Our sister Corinna Denise to talk to us about the implications and, more importantly, the significance of this. And folks, I want y'all to join us. Continue to post your comments as we're talking about this and why we need to stay vigilant on this. Here's the thing about this, Corinna. Like, you worked in a college, you've been working as a class counselor, a college advisor, college counselor. And we talked about the students, what the feedback is from the students. We talked about what could possibly happen. But what give us the realistic understanding of things, because colleges in some ways move like government, very slow, especially when you're trying to make some major and dramatic changes on how the institution relates to its students. What should be the expectation right now? And even going into 23, even though this is, President Gay hasn't started her tenure as the president just yet. But what should be our expectations at this point?
I think perhaps our expectations should be, well, first, I think we need to gather and make a fair assessment of, again, like what's already going on at Harvard with its students and, what is it exactly that they want to change? And why do they think that soon-to-be President Gay is qualified, to take on this leadership role? She has been there for a while. And I was just looking up, she's also a political scientist. So it's going to be interesting to see how she leads and which direction she wants to take the university. Right. But I think it's very important that, we want to hear what the students have to say. Again, it would be really interesting to see, how do they feel about this news and how did it come about that now she's stepping into this leadership role, right? I personally don't exactly know. Is the current president, is he retiring? Is he stepping down? What are the...
Why does that make a difference for you?
Because I feel like it gives me some insight as to what President Gay is going to step into. I just know that sometimes I just feel like in my personal experience, even when I've been looking for, different roles or job opportunities, I usually ask in my interview, I'm also interviewing the company. It's not just about me selling myself. Like, why should I bring my talents here? So I pretty much want to know, why is this position open? Is there high turnover? Like, what challenges are you having in your department? That way we can be fair when we're, looking at what she plans to do, because what exactly is she about to step into?
Right.
As far as, things happening at the university before we just criticize, well, you're not doing this or doing that. I think we need to have, we kind of need to step in and observe what's already happening so that we can have a fair assessment when we are, giving our critiques or our analysis or whatnot, as far as her leadership is concerned with Harvard moving forward.
Absolutely. Lana checked in. You know Lana. I think you know Lana, Corinna.
Hey, Lana.
Lana checked in and said, this is a symbol. She said they know Black people coming for the Harvard for that Harvard reparations. I mean, well, do you think that President Gay will be used as a shield?
I mean, it's definitely possible. It's definitely possible, Lana. I think it has yet to be seen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, back to my point earlier, we there's reason why we're hesitant initially, and it's so unfortunate that we hesitate to celebrate these moments, right? I mean, like, we can have a moment of celebration and then it's like, okay, so what are you doing? We want to see the work now. But it could be symbolic. You never know. I mean, like, again, the timing is very, very ironic. But I think also, just to be fair, there's a lot we don't know. And I think we should be responsible enough to inquire and kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together before we just set it in stone and say it's symbolism, right?
Right.
Although, yeah, Lana, yeah. I mean, it could be, but hopefully not. I think it just that's yet to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, and I would agree with you that, like, time will have to tell. And I'm willing to go as far as say, let's give her at least one good year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
she is. And I think the point that you made earlier about what is she stepping into, excellent analysis, because we oftentimes don't ask that question, especially when it comes to Black leadership. Like, what is she stepping into? What does this, what is she inheriting?
Right.
By getting into this role? Because that in itself is just like the president or any other political official or social official. You got to clean up the mess of the previous administration.
Yeah.
And you have to take ownership of the mess of the previous administration, right? Because it's a succession. You don't want to get into the administration, get into your tenure, and you start off with, I don't know what that guy was doing, but that's not me. You know what I mean? You don't want to separate yourself too much. Right. You recognize there's going to be some issues. And I'm wondering also, Corinna, that if this is going to change the dynamic of the conversation about Ivy Leagues when it comes to Ivy Leagues in the conversation with Black students, right? Where we know, and you know it too, Ivy Leagues always seemed so far off. It seemed like it's up in the valley somewhere, so far away from the people. And it's like, I remember when my wife and I decided that we wanted to put my son into private school and in Maryland, and he went to the top private school in Maryland. But people were like, well, why would you got to pay for that? And I'm like, well, not necessarily. I mean, yes, we're going to pay for it, but it's not going to be full price, because guess what? They're looking for Black students.
Yeah.
And at the same time, okay, so we pay for it. But isn't that the purpose of quality education? Like, don't you want your child to have the best opportunities at the very beginning? And so, I think there's some stuff that we still have to deal with on our end to getting out of this mode of not putting ourselves in the best position to get the most out of our educational experience.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is ignorance, right? And I don't mean ignorance to insult, but simply what it means, right? Like just not knowing. And to your point, like a lot of people don't know, like a lot of these schools will cover 100% financial need. It's just not in big bold print, but I have sent some of my students where they don't pay a dime, like not one dime. And I've worked in schools where that was our goal, trying to find the college fit to get students to meet, 100% of their financial need, and they don't have to take out loans and things of that nature. So it's really just about being a little bit more inquisitive, right? There are ways to make it work, but I hope this will definitely motivate Black students. Like, again, it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic shifts. Will this increase enrollment? Will more students feel compelled, like, oh, wow, it's somebody who looks like us in leadership at the helm of an Ivy League? Like, I think that's really, really a big deal, because we've never really seen that. And it's really important, again, for students to see someone in such a high rank of power and authority who looks like them in their institution. Now, that's one thing, right? Do they look like us, but are they actually for us? So there's kind of like steps in this process. All the pieces have to fit together, and hopefully that'll be the results with this new president at Harvard. Even if it's symbolic or not, hopefully she is there to actually make, a momentous change that's basically going to empower, especially students of color, specifically Black students at the university, and they're going to feel compelled to want to enroll. But yeah, and just a side note, like it's really not impossible. I think, again, it's just not knowing. If you have a good college counselor, they can help you find those schools who will meet 100% of your need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Marcus, you brought up another point, and want to get Corinna's thoughts on this. Harvard is trying to pull some of that you gifted and Black talent that is coming out of high schools and increasingly choosing HBCUs. Do you, and I think, Marcus, to your point, then I think we should look at what is going to be the relationship, you think, Corinna, that Harvard is going to have with HBCUs. Do you think there's going to be a new pipeline of talent that might come from an HBCU where they can continue their education at Harvard? Do you think that may happen under President Gay?
That's interesting. That's an interesting point, Marcus. I mean, I think that's possible too, as far as their recruitment for maybe like their graduate programs, right? And professional schools. I think too, I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of these schools are probably a little bit intimidated right now with their numbers as far as admissions, because, within the past couple of years, we've seen enrollment drastically increase with our historically Black colleges and universities. So, I mean, maybe that is a factor that Harvard is looking at. Like, make no mistake, the company will always make a decision that's going to benefit them.
Yeah.
Even if it benefits us, which we hope it doesn't end, in some way it greatly benefits them. So even if they did make the decision to say, hey, having a Black woman at the helm of leadership, that's going to help us as a school increase our enrollment with Black students, kind of tie up this diversity, inclusion, however, they're looking at it from their stance, then that's what they're going to do. So I think, again, we have to be mindful of that. How are they actually making those decisions? But perhaps, hopefully maybe that would also encourage students who are, coming out of undergrad and continuing their education. I hope that would be encouraging for them too. But again, it's also important that it's under the right, the right helm of leadership. Again, it has yet to be seen. So to your point, Faraji, I think a year is pretty fair, right? To see like, where is Harvard now and what's different or what's strengthened in the year that you've been the leadership of this institution, and what changes, positive changes, have been implemented that have greatly benefited Black students in particular. I think that's a fair assessment for us.
I think that's a great point too. I absolutely think that's a great point. And Marcus, I'm glad that you brought that up. And it makes me also think about, what is going to be, what leadership is going to look like for the other top Ivy League schools, right? Are they going to take the same step that Harvard has taken to appoint a Black woman? Should we expect them to appoint more Black folks at the leadership level? What's your take on that, Corinna?
Well, hopefully this is a door opened per se, right? Where it'll encourage them to consider other candidates, because we know oftentimes Black women are passed over, not because we're, simply because we're Black and we're women, period. I'm just going to say straight, no chaser. That's
Come on, say it.
So, and we've been passed over. And again, like I can only imagine what sis has to step into, because if a Black woman was never empowered before. So I'm pretty sure that there's some mess there that needs to be cleaned up. So we're going to see how she cleans it up and hopefully support her in the process. But I hope this will be a door open for other institutions to see that we are bright, we are brilliant, we can handle the responsibility, and we are effective leaders. And if there were more of us in these positions, then there wouldn't be no mess to step into.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Corinna, we will certainly keep our eyes on this story as well. But I have to say, I have enjoyed the conversation with you. I thank you so much for joining us as our online culture crew member. You bring in a lot of interesting insight into the discussion, which I absolutely love. We'll certainly bring you back on. But I thank you so much for joining us today as our online culture crew and really bringing it. So big shout out to you, and thank you for being so good for the culture. And most importantly, thank you for supporting the work that we're doing here on the Black Star Network. We truly, truly appreciate you, Corinna. Thank you.
Thank you for having me today, Faraji. And real quick, we're just so proud of you. I just want to say that. To see what the culture has turned into. Even the other day I had the show and my mom walked by and she was like, "Oh, look at Faraji's hair. It's growing so nicely." But I just remember when you jumped onto Power Panels Thursdays with Roland, I'm like, who is this guy? And you just fit right in. And now to see you have your own show. So we're really proud of you. I think I'm confident to speak on behalf of the entire online crew. Thank you for involving us. It really does feel like a family, and we feel part of the network and the show, and just keep making us proud. We're proud of you. So thank you.
Oh my gosh. I can't even go to my next segment because I'm going to be crying. No, I really appreciate that. That means the world to me. Oh my gosh. Anyway, get off. Just leave. Just turn your camera off.
Peace, culture crew.
Thank you, Corinna. Appreciate you. Oh man. Wow. Corinna Denise checking in, online culture crew member. Oh, just take a break. We'll come back. We got more conversation up next, checking in with actor Julian Bertano and his wife, Kari Bertano, to talk about their interest into the world of hospitality and how they're making some big moves. And then later we check in with Dr. Moore to talk about the value of Black fathers. Stay with us. It's the culture right next here on the Black Star Network. Wow.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol,
we're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Folks, welcome back to the show. All right, we wanted to talk about some big moves and progress that's being made. And one of our brothers who is doing some phenomenal work, you see him on screen. He's on the OWN's, various programs on OWN's, Oprah Winfrey's network. But more importantly, he is making some big moves along with his wife in the world of hospitality. And I'm talking about my friend, my brother, Julian Bertano, and his wife, Kari Bertano, as they have become owners of a new piece of property. And it's just not just any property. It's a hotel, folks. So I'm so happy to have Julian and Kari joining us today to talk about the big announcement that they have with this hotel. And we're also going to be joined by Mr. John Lancaster, who serves as the franchise development and owner relations for Choice Corporate Hotels. So Julian, Kari, John, thank you so much for joining us. We truly, truly appreciate it.
Hey, Faraji, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good,
Wait a minute.
hold
on. I can't. You know what, Julian? Please tell me your wife is there. Please, because I don't want no smoke from you.
Oh, no. It's so good. She's right. She's in the front seat.
Oh, she in the front. All right.
Yeah. And so, because this is for the culture, I'm traveling right now, so this is what my life is like. I will be, so I'm just trying to keep it authentic.
Hey, Julian, I don't think we talked to you at any point where you're not on the road, brother. So I'm cool with it. I am absolutely good with it.
I'm almost on the road as much as this guy right here.
Julian, I don't know about that, man. You're always on the road. We were just on the road yesterday.
All right, let's give people some context very quickly, Julian. Last time you came on the show, you talked about making a major investment. You and your wife, who are business partners, y'all are a power couple. Y'all decided to move forward, take your marriage and take your finances and business to the next level by investing in a hotel in Boston.
It's actually South Boston, Virginia.
South Boston, Virginia. Thank you, brother.
Yes.
And this investment is a game changer. What has been the latest development with your investment?
Well, one of the latest developments is actually our announcement of who our global brand partner is, which is Choice Hotel Group.
Woo!
So that deserves an applause by itself, just by the work that everybody has put in together to make this thing come to fruition. So we'll have the support that we need, as well as the other mechanisms and logistics added to us. And it's just a great brand to partner with.
Absolutely. So this is a boutique hotel in South Boston, Virginia, correct?
Correct.
So what does that mean, Julian?
What it means is we get to make it look how we want to make it look. No, that's one of the benefits of it. But no, it gives us the opportunity to get into the hotel space and learn really cultivate a culture, right, within it. At 32, 32 rooms we're starting out with. We'll have some other full services that we can provide. So you're talking a rooftop bar and lounge, lower level restaurant, bar, and an event center space in this first one. So, it's something we can tackle. And like I said, with the support of Choice behind us, I know we'll definitely be able to grow and scale the way we look forward to.
First, hey, brother, let me just tell you, if no one else has said it, and I'm sure you've been hearing it, congratulations. This is absolutely major that not only did you and your wife decide to make this investment, jumping into the hospitality industry, but now you got the backing of a global partner, global brand like Choice Hotel. Let me go to John. John, I appreciate you for being on the to be a part of the conversation. This is what I would think is exactly what Choice Hotel is looking for, to have owners like a Julian and Kari to be a part of the network. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct. And Choice Hotels has awarded and financially supported over 325 underrepresented groups into the hotel industry. So when you have the opportunity to partner with Jory, I like to say, Faraji, we've been partying. We've been doing this with Prince since partying like it's 1999, trying to get everybody into the hotel industry. So the fact that Julian and Kari in being a power couple and moving forward itself is fantastic. It's something where we have in partnership. And if I can just piggyback on what the Ascend collection is from Choice, just give a little bit of Choice background. Sure. We have 700 hotels throughout the world. Okay, 5,000 just here domestically. The Ascend collection is our soft brand. So it gives you the opportunity to build the hotel the way you would like to build it. It takes in representation of the culture, the neighborhood, and how you want to direct it. And we are so fortunate to have the opportunity to partner with Julian and Kari in doing this first, not last, of many hotels that we're working together with and partnering with.
So to talk to us a little bit, John, about the fact that Julian and Kari are coming in as a couple. They're a Black couple. They have celebrity behind them. They have a platform in the space, and then working with you guys. Like for my watchers who are watching us today, they might be thinking, "Damn, I didn't know you can franchise a hotel. I didn't know that you get exactly. that Choice Hotel has that level of investment." How did that happen, and what are some of the things that Choice Hotel looks at for future owners?
Great question. Yeah, a lot of people always drive by and look up on the sign and says, "Oh, Mr. Comfort owns that. Mr. Quality owns that." No. The majority of hotels are owned by individuals, and yes, you can own a hotel. It is not something that is without the realm. It is within the realm of possibility for you to own. It's something that people don't think about. They think about, maybe I can buy a restaurant. Maybe I can buy this. Maybe I can do this. It's the same as from the QSR space that you can go in and do that. You're franchising that hotel. And it's not that, large investment that a lot of people think about. A lot of people, travel and they stay at these big luxury, very nice resort hotels. Those hotels, may run you, $1 billion or so, and you're sort of putting $200 million down in equity on that. Faraji, I know you have that in your pocket, so if you do, just let me know.
Oh, please. Please, I was going to ask Julian and Kari.
It'll be, if anybody want to put this out there right now, anybody want to get into this game, you come on over to the Rook, and we got you. Plug you right in with Choice, and we ready to rock and roll.
Oh my goodness! Okay, there we go.
So, but I know those large resorts most people look at, but it's when you walk down, when you're driving down the street and you see those 30, 40, 50 room hotels, Comfort Inn, Quality Inn. We just purchased Radisson as well, and Country Inn and Suites. You do have an opportunity, and it's not something that's without the realm of possibility. Please give Julian a call and partake in Rook Hotels. You can call me as well, and we'll be happy to walk you step by step through hotel ownership.
Okay, so this announcement was big, and we only got a few seconds left, but I wanted to at least put the word out there. What are going to be some of the things that, now that this announcement has been made, what are some of the upcoming events and some of the things that Rook and Choice are going to be doing to really continue to roll out this level of this partnership and this investment?
Well, from my end, I would say regarding the Rook, we'll have community-based events. We'll be doing some conversations via social media apps such as a Clubhouse, a Breakout, things like that. Do some, social media engagement just to bring visibility to the brand and the movement as we're in our first phases in construction and renovations and whatnot. And then we'll be working in tandem with Choice Hotel, John, and everybody, the different divisions on different ways that we can help, continue further the marketing and message of both ownership and the awareness of the room.
What's the timeline, Julian and John, for the hotel to be open?
So we're looking at a spring to early fall 24.
Spring, early fall 2024. There it is.
And you'll see things that are coming out as well from us, and we welcome actually Julian and Kari to our Choice Hotel Owners African American Alliance. It's an industry where we just have, sort of our Black and African American owners have the opportunity to talk to our executive leaders, along with myself on a quarterly basis, to talk about the opportunity, challenges, and wins of Black and African Americans in hotel ownership to make sure we move forward. So we'll have many things planned as well, along in conjunction with Kari and Julian, that you'll be seeing coming out.
Well, you know what? I want to put it out there to Julian and John. Julian, we have been blessed to be a part of this process with you, this journey, just to chronicle just the things that you've been doing. And John, certainly want to put it out there, brother. We want to do our best, and we want to do our part here on the Black Star Network, particularly with the culture, to be a partner in making sure that we put the word out that investment, franchise ownership, this is an option for our people across the country. As we're talking to a number of folks in various states across this country and around the world, we want to be a part of that celebration. We want to be a part of that effort. So, John, let us know how we can be supportive. Julian, he knows this is home. Kari, this is home for them to get the word out. But I'm serious. We want to be a part of that effort to get the word out, and most importantly, get our people involved as much as we can.
I look forward to doing that and working with Faraji to move that forward.
Absolutely. Hey, Julian, very quickly, can we get your wife on camera? I want to make sure that this is no.
Yeah,
you about to get me. You about to get me. I'm gonna say that I gotta be careful. I'm gonna be in trouble if you try to make me put this camera on her.
All right, so we ain't gonna do that. But know that the culture appreciates her, because we know that beside every great Black man is a great Black woman. So
absolutely.
She said, "Give me the damn camera."
No. That's me speaking just so people can know it's real.
Hey, look, I appreciate you, brothers, for doing the great work. Julian, let's reconnect very, very soon. Let's bring you and Kari back on. John, thank you so much for creating the space for ownership and investment at this level. And we are looking we're looking forward to seeing what the next steps will be as we work our way up to the spring and fall of 2024 for the opening of the Rook Hotel in South Boston, Virginia. There it is, folks. Greenleaf actor Julian Bertano acquires this new hotel in Virginia. You got something there coming to you, Virginia, and it's coming from one of our very own. Julian, John, thank you so much for being on the program, and more importantly, being good for the culture.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's talk about Black fatherhood. Stay with us. It's the culture on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home. You dig?
All right, folks, for our final conversation, my hair getting in the way. I'm getting so excited about today's show. For our final conversation, we wanted to check in, just have a brief discussion with Dr. Edmund Moore, who is the author of a book about fatherhood and financial freedom for Black families. His book, With a Father's Love, and with his new book is about financial freedom. It's a great conversation that we should have, especially as we are upon the holidays. And Dr. Moore, we want to make sure that you get a couple of moments on, but let me just share this with you. Let's bring out Dr. Moore. Thank you so much, brother, for being with us today. I want to bring you back on next week if we can, so we can go deeper into the conversation about family budgeting and how to make sure that we don't break or broke during this holiday season. But first and foremost, thank you for being on the culture here on the Black Star Network. Talk to us about what was the inspiration for you to write With a Father's Love?
The inspiration of that book was I was in the midst of a divorce, and I started writing letters to my daughters just so they would know who I was, and wrote for 52 weeks. I wrote a letter every week to them just to let them know who I was. And the intention was not to put it into a book. It was just for them.
It was just for them. And so what motivated you to put it into book form?
I told people about it at my church and other friends, and they said, you got to put this into a book. And
it's just that simple.
That's how it came about.
So this comes out of a place of pain for you, with the hope that it will lead to some healing and some joy for other people.
Correct. And what was interesting that some of the people that grabbed the book, they were going through it with their daughters, and others were saying that their sons were saying, "Where's the book for us?" So, and the other thing was, the adults enjoyed the book more than the kids.
So, who is the intended target for the book, Doc?
Well, remember, it was written out of love to my daughters, so it was really my daughters. So I assumed that it would be other young ladies, but it turned out to be more widely accepted than I thought.
And give us we got a few moments here, but what are some of the key lessons that you wanted your daughters to know, especially as from you as their dad and just from their experience of growing up?
Well, the first one you always talk about, I love you always. That was my first letter, so that they would know that I'm always be there for them, no matter what they do, that kind of thing. Beyond that, I talked about time management, finances. The last chapter was called the Arsenio Dilemma, after Arsenio Hall. And of course, they didn't know who he was, but I don't know how young you are, but when Arsenio Hall
I
came
remember
on,
Arsenio now. I remember him.
His show came on at 11:30 at night.
11:30 on the East Coast. I'm from Baltimore. It came on 11 o'clock, and I used to stay up at night just to watch who he had on. He was cultural icon, brother. Cultural icon.
So my whole point of that last chapter was, you can't get ahead if you're watching someone else. Woo! You can't sit there and lose sleep at night trying to stay up. You couldn't record it in those days. And so I used to stay up and watch, and I had to make a decision. I was in grad school to say, hey, if I'm going to succeed in life, I can't stay up and watch the brother. I support you, but I can't stay up and watch it.
You can't get ahead if you're watching someone else and watching someone else moving forward. Man, that's a big decision. Look, Doc, I have to bring you back, because this part about not just getting ahead, but also just about budgeting, this is very, very interesting. You have some different ideas about holiday spending. You have some different ideas about really how to go through this time of year. What is some of the key things that you want us to learn at this moment? And again, we'll certainly bring you back on to have a much longer conversation. But can you give us some little nuggets of wisdom here?
I would say the big thing is know your number. You got to know how much resources you have, period, so that you don't go overboard spending in the holiday spirit period of time. So know your number. If you only got $100 to spend, that's what your budget should be for the holidays.
It's just being honest and being honest to yourself.
Right. Yep. Don't try to impress others with what you don't have. That's a problem a lot of people have. They live beyond their means.
Yeah.
My dad saying was, you don't want so much, you won't need so much.
Was your dad a minimalist?
No, he was not a minimalist. He was an entrepreneur.
So he definitely had to count the pennies and the dimes and the nickels. He had to make sure that he had to stretch those resources. So I get it. I definitely
No. My dad did not have to stretch the resources.
Oh, he did?
He was I say he was an entrepreneur. So he was an educator, but he also was a brick mason.
Oh,
and
nice.
He did. Yeah, so brick masons made a lot of money. My brother was making $25 an hour back in the 70s. In the 70s.
Right. Come on, Doc. Come on, brother.
Yeah,
Come on.
yeah. People still talking about getting the $25.
He was a wealthy man. He worked in the education space and was a bricklayer. Come on, brother. Come on.
Yes.
Come on.
So
So that comes from a lot. And you know what? That's why I wanted to have this conversation, because it at least gives us something to think about, to live within your means, right? And to understand that your desires, your desires are going to always be bigger than what you can actually take on.
Right.
And so it's about understanding that. Look, Dr. Moore, I promise you, God willing, we'll bring you back on very, very soon. Let's have some deeper conversations, because this is coming out of a space of love. But you wrote this book to your daughters that now turned into a guide for everybody. And I think that is something worthy of a discussion. Dr. Edmund Moore, you wrote the book With a Father's Love. We'll bring you back on. There it is right there, folks. You can definitely purchase it online. It's a great gift for family members. And it comes from look at that cover. I love the cover there, Doc. That's a beautiful cover, brother. So
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we'll definitely check back in, but we appreciate you for coming on just for a few moments with us today. But thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Happy holidays. Hope to see you next week.
Brother. You too. You too. All right, folks. Man, oh man. Got some great people that are doing some wonderful things. Look, the show has been phenomenal. Corinna, my sister, man, oh man, thank you so much for dropping the jewels and being a part of the conversation. We also want to thank our sister, Shireen Mitchell, for checking in to give us some insight. You're going to see more of Shireen, God willing, and more importantly, make sure y'all connect with Digital Sister on all social media platforms. That's going to do it for us, but I thank each and every one of you. I thank my dynamic team for making today's show such a great, great show. And I also encourage you to make sure y'all go check us out at blackstarnetwork.com, where you can continue to be a part of the great movement that we have here on Black Star Network. Support us. Continue to let folks know that we are producing quality shows. We have dope content, and we want you to stay informed about what's happening in this country, and particularly in Black America, where you will find those conversations nowhere else on the media landscape. So make sure y'all do y'all due diligence and check us out at blackstarnetwork.com. Also follow me, yours truly, Faraji Muhammad, on social media. You can find me at The Real Faraji on Instagram and Faraji on Twitter. And I would love to connect with you as we build our community. That's going to do it for me for today. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. Stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered with Big Brother Roland Martin. And of course, we want you to have a great weekend. So God willing, we'll reconnect with you on Monday for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Talk to you soon. Peace.